Hello everyone, it's Ben from Game Hunters R Us. It's a little late at night right now, that's why I'm talking a little quietly, but this is a vlog for a game I just finished. I probably won't do this very often unless you want to see more of these, let me know, but I recently just finished my very first Final Fantasy game. Now, I'm not huge on RPGs. I mean, I enjoyed Dragon Age, Mass Effect, although Mass Effect's not quite an RPG. I really like Skyrim, but I never really got that much into RPGs. I'm usually more into shooting games and general action games. Platformers I like too, but anyway, it took me about 5 months to sort of sludge through this thing. I actually beat a couple other games in between, and it probably wasn't the greatest Final Fantasy game to introduce me to the series with. Yeah, it was 13. I didn't think it was very good. I, I I'm not trying to brag or anything when I say all this, but I've studied multiple forms of writing in college. I have a creative writing certificate. I just a couple days ago I graduated from journalism in college. I actually won a Writer's Craft Award in high school, so I'm not trying to say I'm the best writer in the world, but I'd like to think I'm at least pretty good. I'm actually working on a novel series right now that I'm hoping to get published sometime. That's not what this is about, but I'm not just saying that, but I also enjoy watching bad movies and enjoy playing the occasional bad game. So I'm saying this with all of that. I'm not the total expert, but Final Fantasy XIII has the worst storytelling I've ever seen anywhere. I just right here on my computer I have some notes. It's just ignoring the story. Nothing about the world is adequately explained. You have all these ideas that all this cities and stuff, sure they exist, but they don't explain anything about it. I think they mention the capital city of this world in passing, but they don't really explain the government beyond. It's called the Sanctum, and there's this boss guy that's in charge of it, and they don't like the fal'cie, and they're rounding up normal civilians just because there's fal'cie in the general area. Not much is explained about their policies or if they're kind of suppressing everyone or not. None of that's really explained, at least not in game. What are ordinary citizens like? You don't know. You only know what these sea guys on the run are. There are all sorts of these weird terms in game, like proto-ecology. Again, not explained in game. I didn't read any of the text in the data logs because I don't have that kind of patience. At least not for something I don't like. So, the only terms that are really explained in game are fal'cie, fal'cie, and focus. And they make up for it by repeating it over and over again throughout the whole game. It's really kind of sad. But basically the fal'cie are these big technical, like, they're very powerful. They seemingly rule the world. The fal'cie are kind of their slaves. If you meet a fal'cie, they might turn you into a fal'cie. You're kind of a slave. You gain these magical powers, but you also have this focus to fulfill. It's kind of a goal, a task. If you complete this focus within a time limit, you turn into crystal. I'm not sure why that's a good reward. If you fail, you turn into a monster. The dumb thing is they never tell you what your focus is. They only give you a bunch of hazy images, and you have to figure it out for yourself. Spoonie actually covered this a lot in his Final Fantasy review, so I'm not going to pay too much attention to that. But the characters, even the more likable main characters, do so many illogical things in this game. I mean, Lightning, sure, Lightning's okay, but she keeps punching people. It makes her a little unrelatable at first. I mean, sure, as the game goes on, she becomes more tolerant of Snow's stupidity. Snow is stupid and annoyingly optimistic. The kids, wow. Vanille, most annoying character I've ever seen in a big budget game like this, by far. Hope, he gets better towards the end of the game. Fang as a character is sort of non-existent. They don't really develop her too much beyond her connection with Viniel, who again is the most annoying character in the game. And then there's the black guy Slaz, who's really just a stereotype and yet not a stereotype at the same time. It's whatever. So there's this frequently, there's going to be spoilers from here on, but there's this frequently thought up concept that the fal'cie are far beyond humanity's comprehension. Like their minds are well beyond anything we can understand, and that's why they can't tell us directly what their focus is. That kind of works until you meet the head of the entire order and he can talk to you. Just the entire narrative just fell apart right there. And there's another fal'cie you meet shortly after you finally beat him, and he can talk to you too. And this is a fal'cie that's allowing the world of Cocoon to even exist. I don't get it. You're telling me that even if some of the other fal'cie can't talk to you directly, you're telling me they can't at least create some sort of robot that can be some sort of communication bridge? Really? So, spoilers for the end of the game. If you don't know the end of the game or you're waiting for Spoonie's review, leave right now or just skip a few minutes ahead. But it turns out your actual focus is the fal'cie want you to kill them. They actually have very little freedom despite all their power. They have virtually almost no free will. They want you to end their suffering. In a story that was told better, that would kind of work, but here, you only learn this right before the final boss of the game. It's kind of ridiculous. There's no lead up towards that whatsoever. But if they want you to kill them, then why is it that when you're actually trying to kill them for the final boss, why is it that they're fighting back? But even beyond the major story elements, there are a lot of smaller problems with the game too. If I'm looking this way, it's because I have notes on my computer. There's no consistency with how much punishment the main characters can take. I mean, there's this one scene where there are a bunch of scenes where they fall at ridiculous distances and they somehow survive. There's one scene before they become fal'cie, before they become more powerful. Hope's mother takes this giant fall and dies. Then Snow takes the exact same fall, and he doesn't even have any scratches or bruises on him. He's perfectly fine. It barely even slows him down. And then, even after that, there's this one scene where all the main characters, save for Fang, they fall, I think, multiple miles, and they all survive without a scratch. And yet, minutes later, Snow is knocked out with a human punch. What? Please have a little bit of consistency here. And then there's this one scene on top of this prison ship. You're trying to rescue two of the characters. This is just before you meet Space Pope, basically. That's what I'm going to call him. But they're on top of the ship, and there's this bird, this giant house-sized bird, flying overhead. So Viniel takes out her weird antler staff thing. There are cables inside. She whips the cables out. They move out 500 feet or so. They wrap around the house-sized bird. And this bird's flying quite fast, and all of a sudden he just stops right in his tracks. Because apparently this 90-pound girl is enough to stop a full house-sized bird. Hello? Physics? Then there's the whole thing about people saying the game gets good around the 40 or so hour mark. Depends on how much you try to level grind earlier, but what it is that the game finally leaves the linear hallway and it opens up wide, and then you can do all these monster hunting missions. But that's it. That's all you can do. There are all these optional monster hunting missions where you just go to the marker, you get told where you are, you go to the monster hunting mission, you kill the monster, and you keep doing it over and over again about 50 times. There's no story development with these things. There's not even dialogue. It's just text that, this really vague text that doesn't explain at all what you're fighting against. Just all these little stories that don't give you enough to care about whoever failed this focus. In between, during the maps, there are these little character development scenes that really lead to nothing. There's just... And a complaint I have about the gameplay side of this is there's no waypoint marker to help you figure out where to go to get to the monster you're currently assigned to. So you have to keep switching back to the map, looking at it, moving around. Okay, I want to go in this direction, and you have to go back into the game, walk in that direction. Sometimes you have to turn around because there's an obstacle in the way, and you have to check the map just to make sure you're looking in the right direction again. And you can also only have one of these monster hunting missions active at once. It's so silly. So no, it doesn't really get better. If anything, it almost gets worse. I mean, and even if it did get better, if it only gets good at, I'll just average it out, 30 hours, if it only gets good after 30 hours, that's not a selling point. Why can't it be good right away? Why can't it be good within half an hour at least? If it's a long game, that I would accept that. I mean, Skyrim had a pretty good opening. It doesn't have the greatest story in the world, but it had a good opening. The original Mass Effect had a great opening. Mass Effect 2 and 3 also had decent openings, at least if you like the games. Dragon Age 1 had a pretty good opening. Dragon Age 2, well, the game wasn't as good as the first one in general. The Witcher ending was pretty good. At least The Witcher 2, I haven't played the first one. So why can't Final Fantasy have a good ending? Even Final Fantasy XIII 2, which I played a little bit of, has a much better ending, because at least something's happening in it. At least there's some sort of big battle. It has nothing to do with the ending of 13. I don't know how they're supposed to connect yet. But at least it was something exciting. But, gameplay-wise, the worst thing is nearly every single fight in the game can be won with a 5-star rating simply by tapping the X button over and over again. I played the PS3 version. But just press the X button over and over again. How is that good gameplay? Even most of the more difficult fights, all you have to do is switch to a paradigm with a medic, and then you can just keep tapping X, and you don't even have to look at the TV or whatever the screen you're using for the system, and you'll still win. I'm not a multitasker, but I watched so many movies for the first time while playing this game. I watched The Howling, great werewolf movie, by the way. I watched The Howling 2, terrible movie, but hilarious, plus Christopher Lee, as in Saruman, throws a holy hand grenade. Awesome. But I watched Defiance, that was pretty good. I watched a couple kids' movies I've been putting off for a while. I watched the original Dracula, 1931, Bela Lugosi, and all of its 1930s sequels. Most of those are pretty good too. I watched so many movies for the first time, and even though I'm not a multitasker, I didn't miss anything in it. I understood every single major plot point. So I had a pretty good time playing this game. Not because of the game itself, but because of the movies I watched. And I still won virtually every single fight. I even read some comic interviews or that guy with the glasses videos. That shouldn't be possible for a not multitasker. And if I want to pay attention to nothing in the game, I want to pay attention to anything else, that's not a good sign of storytelling or gameplay. But that said, there are some positive things to say. I can see where they were going with the story. If the story was told better, then it could have worked. If the characters made more sense and their character development felt a lot more natural, it could have worked. The idea that these powerful beings want to die because they have no freedom, I could see that working with better storytelling. Not to mention the graphics are very good, and the sound is also pretty good. So there are things to like in this game. It's just, overall, it's terrible. It's all style and no substance, and that is not enough to sustain a 60-plus hour game. I don't mean to insult anyone who likes this game, but I honestly can't think of any reason why anyone would think this game is legitimately good. That's really my conclusion. It has the worst storytelling I've ever seen. If you've played this game, please let me know what you think. If you like it, please tell me why. I'm curious. I would like to see some good arguments as to why someone would like this game. Because I like seeing alternate perspectives like that. But please, if you played the game, let me know what you think. And I intend to do a vlog for the Remember Me game that's coming out this week. I have hopes for the game. I won't be surprised if it's bad, but I hope it's good. I'm all for more games with female protagonists. Anything that brings more variety to a industry that's growing more and more stagnant is a good thing. So I hope it's good, and I hope it does well, if it's good. And I guess that's it. I kind of need to get to bed because I work tomorrow. So, see ya.